Yo, 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 welcome to Made to Think with your host, Ninjam. Yet again, I have a very, very special guest tonight. This has basically been a lifetime of my work, research, curiosity. It all started with the simple book by Mr. Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods. Somebody asked me, who do you think built the pyramids of Egypt? And I said, the Egyptians. That was my first reaction. It took me about 6 months to read Fingerprints of the Gods. And I gave that book back to this gentleman at work. Hello, Dave, if you're listening. And I said to him, you know what? I don't know how to answer that question anymore. I'd had a paradigm shift. And ever since that book, my life's changed for the better. Just having like a simple curiosity, a simple goal to try and figure out what happened in the past. And then I stumbled over a very awesome author and engineer. His name is Christopher Dunn. And when I read his first book called The Giza Power Plant, I just couldn't believe what I was reading. I was thinking, wow, this is an incredible insight into what we could have been capable of doing in the past. But of course, mainstream tells us a different story. And then I read Christopher's second book, which was called The Advanced Technologies of Egypt, which opened my mind even more. And of course, he's just released his third book. It's called Giza, the Tesla Connection. And I just managed to get my hands on that copy. I want to shout out to Nick Reeder, who's my best friend in England. Because I live in Vietnam, it's very difficult for me to get books. And anytime I get a book sent over from the UK, it usually gets sent back. So I finally managed to get my hands on this copy, and I've been dying to read the updated version of the original Christopher Dunn's book. Christopher's a very, very smart and experienced engineer, manufacturing expert. I mean, if there's anybody who can look at old structures and create a completely new theory based off engineering experience, it's Christopher Dunn. So I managed to get my hand on this book, and the foreword, I came across a person that I'd never heard of before, a person that led me to his YouTube channel, which was the first time ever I've seen somebody create a 3D model of how the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, I want to express, may have functioned as something that we would never consider without these researchers. This gentleman, his name is Ahmed Adly. He has more than 2.8 million people who watched that video. It's in Arabic. I watched the whole series. I want to give a shout out to Islam Faiz. He's also a very good friend of mine, an Egyptian civil engineer. When I told him that I'd found this video, he told me it was his favorite 14 episode series in Arabic. And he was surprised that I'd found you. So of course, being me, I reached out to Ahmed on Facebook. I tracked him down. Of course, I would really love to get Christopher on at some point, but I know he's very busy and he's trying to enjoy his retirement. And Ahmed, being Ahmed, the lovely, humble person that he is, accepted my invitation, which is mind-blowing. And it's perfect timing because Christopher Dunn has just been on Joe Rogan last week for the first time. I actually posted in one of Joe Rogan's threads to say months ago, please get Christopher Dunn on after the Randall Carson, Graham Hancock episode. And Ahmed Adly, his name was mentioned on the biggest podcast in the world. And now this gentleman is on my little podcast. I want to welcome one of the brainchilds and possible future way of thinking for children and education in the whole of Egypt. Thank you for joining the wonderful Ahmed. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much, Adam, for this wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it.
Just please introduce yourself a little bit for the listeners who don't know you.
Okay, so my name is Ahmed Adly. I'm Egyptian. I grown up in Egypt. My core study is engineering, specifically electrical engineering and controlling system. Currently, I have relocated to Germany. So nowadays I'm living in Germany. So since about 7 years now. Father for 3 wonderful kids.
You got
And
3
for a
kids.
wonderful wife. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So you are originally from Cairo, if I am right. Is that correct? Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How was it growing up around such awe-inspiring structures?
Okay, so you may wonder so in Egypt, we have this structure in front of us all the time. So sometimes you told yourself or you said to yourself, okay, I will visit it next month, next year, and or whatever. And sometimes a year go after a year, and then you don't visit it. So because it is there, you can visit it anytime. So when when I was young, I just visited two times for the Egyptian pyramids, Giza pyramids, and also the Cairo Museum. So for me, before understanding it, it was just normal. I didn't really understand the marvelous engineering behind it. So for me, it was I would say average experience before really understanding it. Then I started to look into it from different perspective, and then I realized that no, I need to dig more into it.
What age were you when you started to think that?
What about when I was 30? This 30. Now I'm 40, 41. So this happened like 11, 12 years ago.
Very interesting. Okay. Did you spend your family trips traveling around Egypt much? Like, you know, going to the sites, or like you say, was that just something that was on your doorstep that everybody takes advantage of?
Indeed, it happened with my family several times. We go to for Egypt, we go to the museums, even here in Europe. But most of the time, I go there on my own. So I visit on my own because it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. Sometimes the kids will get tired, so I do it on my own.
Okay, great. Now, I went to Cairo 2005. It was during the time of the war. So actually, I'd already booked the trip, and the travel agency told me not to go because it was dangerous. And I went anyway. And when I went there, I actually have a photograph with me and my niece at the Giza pyramids. And we were the only people in front of the pyramid, which I think is one of the rarest photographs you'll ever get. Now, I was lucky to meet the famous wisdom keeper Hakim, and I was invited to his house, which was right near the Sphinx. Now, he's the father of one of your friends and very well-known specialist tour guide in Cairo, Youssef. Hello, Youssef Aswan. Did you ever get to meet Hakim before what we call he wested?
Mm. No, I didn't have the chance to meet Hakim. He passed away before I show interest in ancient Egypt. I got to learn about Hakim from books, either Brian Porter, Stephen Myler, Steve
Yeah.
Myler, and of course from Yusuf himself. So I meet with Yusuf and we speak many times about him. He's a wonderful man, um, and full of wisdom, really.
I know he had a very different like outlook on what everything was, the way everything functioned and stuff. And back then, I very much doubt that a lot of the Egyptians or locals accepted it, or maybe thought he was a bit crazy. But has those kind of ways of thinking changed a little bit recently, or?
Um, it was. I think it is already in change, but the academia, since the academia is dominating the narrative, so you may notice that okay, this is the only narrative or the only story. However, if you speak with different people in the streets, in the ancient sites themselves, you will hear different stories from them. So yeah, academia dominating the media, but now after of course the social media is there, it's now different.
That's good. Okay. Now, Hakim, I know you didn't meet Hakim, so I will be brief about this information, but he did mention to me that there was an unlimited access. Sorry, Hakim had an unlimited access to these underground tunnel complexes, which he said that they ran for miles and miles. all around the Giza Plateau, and now they're mostly off limits. Do you have any evidence of there being an extensive underground network of tunnels as such? And what would be the purpose of this, in your opinion?
So short answer, yes. There is a tunnels, there is a net of tunnels under the Giza Plateau and of course under Saqqara. This can be seen from top of the plateau while you are walking. You can notice this clearly, for example, between the Sphinx and the second pyramid along the path. You will see many shafts, and it's covered with iron bars for security reasons. But I believe it is all under the ground. I think the only person that has a chance to make a video on it is Brian Forster, but he got a special permission for that, and he published like 4 videos about it. It was very useful. It is available, but on a special permission, not open for the public.
So, what would be the reason that they would do that?
It's very hard, of course, to answer this question, but my assumption is these tunnels or these shafts was on during the pyramid operation. It was full of water,
Yeah.
right? And controlling the level of the water will control the sound that coming from it. I will show you something here. I have here Egyptian flute from Luxor.
Oh, very cool.
And just a small experiment. If you blow it, and you can control the voice with this stick.
I see. Yeah.
So I think this why the sound is different, why the sound frequency is different, because the length of the air inside the flute is different. I think they were controlling the column of air by increasing or decreasing the water. This could be possibly happened, and in this case, they will control the overall environment and the resonance of the Great Pyramid.
Interesting.
And of course, the other pyramid.
When you think about modern like nuclear power sites, they're always built by water as well. They're using that for cooling, right? That's very interesting. Okay, now I recently heard Billy Carson discussing about forbidden knowledge on episode 93 of the Sean Ryan Show. I think it's a great show. And it was the first time that I'd ever heard this story of Amun-Ra being recognized as the first major architect of Kemet. What do you know about this legacy, Amun-Ra? Is there such thing as a grand architect we can claim as the very first?
I came across this video, this episode. When we mentioned Amun-Ra, I think he didn't mention the structure name, but I think he meant the Karnak, because in Luxor, because the Karnak is, at least part of it, is dedicated to Amun-Ra. It is a very ancient site. Yes, the earliest records from the Middle Kingdom dedicated to Amun-Ra, but we know there is evidences for early dynasties, first and second. And when we say so, then this means it can be older even, but without writings. So I think when he mentioned Amun, he meant the Karnak. Although it's very hard to promise if this is really the most ancient structure or not. I believe the most ancient structure could be in Iono or On or Heliopolis. This where the most ancient structures should be there, because it's the first capital of ancient Egypt, pre-dynastic period.
I mean, something, I know Billy Carson's a little bit out there, but he said that Amun-Ra was like this original architect and it was like the golden era. And then some sort of bad group of people came along and kicked him out of Kem. And apparently the name Amun-Ra, it got changed to Ra-Kam, and Kam in the ancient times means shield. So it actually became the Ra shield, which apparently is linked to the Rothschilds, and they're the ones that run the world. it's kind of weird because all the mystical Egyptian schools all get linked into Freemasonry and
Yeah,
Rosicrucians, and they worship this thing, you know. So it's kind of funny that, and I think that when you think about Amun Ra or the sun disk, obviously they're worshiping the sun. That means that for me, the sun's the main source of power, and that's kind of a link there to these. They obviously knew that using the power of the earth or the power of the sun to generate power would make a lot of sense, you know.
indeed,
Okay,
indeed.
now I also got to meet Robert Baval. I was staying at the Mina House when I did my trip. The reason I stayed at
Mhm.
the Mina House because I just read Serpent in the Sky by John Anthony West, and I got told that if you're going to go to Egypt, that's the best place to get the pyramid view from your hotel. But all I got told all the famous writers stay there, so I just figured I might bump into somebody, and I just had 3 hours to spare before I would fly to Luxor. I went round the pool and I saw Robert Baval with his wife. So of course I run over and I said to him like, "Wow, the reason I'm here is because of you." And I have a tattoo on my arm which is taken from one of Robert's books, which is the
Ah,
Duat. So I'd got
right.
that original idea that the shafts in the pyramids were the shafts that pointed to Al Niktak, the middle star of Orion's belt, and that was the whole thing. So I put a tattoo on my arm because I had an idea to create a movie. Having just finished a film writing degree, I was going to do a movie about this other planet where we go to in the afterlife, and it's been taken care of by the ancients, let's say. So I originally accepted that the pyramids at Giza were tombs and that the shafts inside allowed the soul of the dead king to pass through the duat into the afterlife. Um, did you also believe this same idea, this same theory back then when it was like the time of fingerprints of the gods and Orion mystery?
I come to know Boval's theory and fingerprint of the god after maybe 12, as I said, 12, about 12 years ago. I read both books. I started with, there was a book named The Mystery of the Great Pyramids.
Yeah,
It was Arabic book,
yeah,
uh, but he was getting Boval's idea. I was explaining Boval's idea. It was a wonderful book, actually, by a Lebanon author named Antoine Botros. I really like this book very much. He explains Boval theory. That's why where I first understand it, and then I start to read his own book. Um, I believe in the first two. So Boval theory goes to three parts, right? So first Orion belt, second the edge of the pyramid, and third um, the function of the pyramid, or sending the kings to the stars, or in a certain operation. I believe in the first and the second part very, very much, Boval, in Boval theory. The third one, I still rethinking of it because he interprets the pyramid text to translate. However, it is wonderful. Um, although I would say not 100% confident that this is like the final function or so. I'm still revising it and thinking about it.
yeah. I would say like what's important for me to my listeners is that even though I have a tattoo here, which meant something to me 25 years ago, I've completely changed my mind. But the tattoo still represents, for me, it's like I want to acknowledge my ancestors that I've found out that knowledge. And if there is an afterlife, I sort of think that this is like a passport because I've recognized something that not a lot of people do. I spoke to Robert's brother because Robert's been very sick because I kept in touch with Robert Baval, but I've not seen him for ages. And his brother said he doesn't want to do any interviews, but I would be interested to see, and I'm sure he would probably revise his original theory now based off the work of Chris Dunn. I don't think he's one of them people that would still hold on to that because, like everything in the world, we have more modern technology. You know, we have better scanners. It's impossible to hold on to these old ideologies, in my opinion. I think you're crazy if you do that, you know. Okay, great. So after I met Robert Baval, I told him that I'd met Hakeem, and Robert was saying to me around the pool, "Oh, Hakeem's like this legend. How did you meet him?" I just went into a random Egyptian perfume shop, and there was a guy there that offered me to climb the pyramids, but I ended up I said I didn't feel comfortable to do it. So instead, the guy took me to Hakeem's house, and Robert was asking me, how do I get in touch with Hakeem? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know where he lives. He just lives near the Sphinx. Anyway, a few years later, when I was back in England, of course, back then it was hard to have like people's email or Gmail. There was no Google search. I thought that Hakeem was like a figment of my imagination, but then I saw both of Hakeem and Robert, randomly flicking cable TV, Discovery Channel. I saw Hakeem on the TV, and I was like, there he is wearing his hat. He's real. And it was the epic Pyramid Code 5-part series, which is available on YouTube, which I think was absolutely groundbreaking. And I finally saw Robert Baval later in another episode. It turns out they never actually met. But that TV show, when I went back and watched it, after listening to Hakeem's teachings, I didn't really understand what he was telling me. And it's been like my entire life, I've been downloading it, processing all this stuff. And now it's like, I feel like he lives inside me, and he just wanted the light to get out. I heard this story that, when the great darkness falls over, that the great wisdom keepers will come up, and they will hum the ancient wisdoms, which has all been passed down orally, not been written down, because then it can get sabotaged, right? So I just want to ask you, like, how important was that Pyramid Code show at the time? And how did any like Egyptologists or engineers like yourself or the local Egyptians, how did they react to that kind of information?
Yeah, this set of videos, this series was wonderful. I watched it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Basic first I think it was on Gaia the first time I saw it. Before, and it was the first time to introduce me to Hakim, because he's first time to listen to him speak by himself, not someone is talking on behalf of himself. And I think when he spoke about the healing concept of the pyramid, this was great, and this resonates with me on part of the function of the pyramid. I would say for Egyptologists, it is not like, for people like me who is interested in this narrative. Of course, they listen to it, but for Egyptologists or officials, maybe they didn't see it, or they didn't care much about it.
So, okay, what spurred your earliest interest into engineering? And did it have any connection to you wanting to understand more about these ancient sites, these ancient buildings?
So I started and finished my engineering studies in the university before even showing any interest in ancient Egypt. So this was just before all of this. But to understand ancient Egypt, ancient structure, ancient science, I started to read about engineering stuff that was not part of my professional work, like engineering topics about sound, about physical properties of the stones, about mechanics, just to get more understanding of the ancient structures, and how did they make it, why did they made it, and so on. So I would say, yeah, it was a motivation to know more.
That's great. I think you picked the perfect trade. Now, have you always had such a logical approach to problem solving? Because I've watched your videos, I just love how you'll suggest something and then you sort of say, whoa. And it's in Arabic, so I don't quite understand everything, but I'm just like, the way you say, like, okay, here's this thing, here's that thing, is like, nah. And I love it. I think it's your little signature. Have you always had such a logical approach to problem solving? Because your pyramid presentation was absolutely spectacular. And not only me, but a lot of my friends who are also like mechanics, car. I've got a friend here, Christian. He's he does like modifications for Ferraris and Lamborghinis. He's got a big factory
Mhm.
here. He watched it and he said that's the most logical video I've ever seen. And even the naysayers, the older people, like one guy was like, he watched it and he said, "Oh, I'm interested in a Mesa's point of view." And I said, "There is a Mesa. His name's Eric Wilson, so I'll get that." But how have you managed to get such a logical approach to these things now?
Yeah, thank you very much. So in general, I have this approach in my day-to-day engineering work, right? So, but I am grateful to some people who teach me how to apply this in ancient Egypt, like how to keep asking question, why and how. One of those are Muhammad Ibrahim, tour guide and Egyptologist, also Yusuf, of course, Yusuf Awiyan, and Christopher Dunn. From their books and from their videos, they teach me how to ask a question, think about the answer. Is the available answer logical enough, or can we provide a better answer, and so on. So it's trying to ask. If we ask the right questions, I think we will be on the right track to provide the better answers.
Critical thinking, really. Yeah, that's very good. Have you always questioned the mainstream narratives and the true origins of your country? Or when you was a kid, you just went with the mainstream?
When I was kid, I didn't care much, so we just follow the mainstream in our schools, um, and books and TV. But yeah, when I grew up, when I started to read about it, I start to question, to ask question about the true origins of Egypt, especially if you know that all this was set up only the last 200 years. Only the last, so any book before this, it was, yeah, I know it was full of a lot of fantasies. That's true. But in the same time, from these fantasies, you can get some really real information. So yeah, we always questioning it, and in many cases they don't like these questions.
Yeah. Now, did your family or your friends or people in the neighborhood did they ever talk about their ancestors in different ways from what we learn at school about the history of Egypt? You know, like the likes of Hakim, for example.
Mm. Not only the family, by the way. I mean, if you ask 10 Egyptians, if you go to the street and just pick 10 random Egyptians and ask them about the history, some historical questions of the origins, you will likely get 6 to 7 different answers.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of variations. You will not hear that only in the media, but you will if you walk and talk to people, you will read a lot of different answers.
that's good. I mean, when you go for a tour, there's always going to be the tour guide. You know, they've all got different kind of perspectives,
Exactly.
which is interesting. Now, where and what did you eventually study? Because you do have a PhD, and I think we should highlight that. But what did you eventually study, and why did you choose this field initially?
I excuse me, where did this you get this information of PhD? I don't have PhD actually.
Oh, sorry, no, I thought you were
Uh, uh,
sorry.
no, it's okay, it's okay. Because sometimes you may find in the comments if someone told me a doctor, it's just a compliment, but it is not. I don't really have a PhD. So my education was in the university engineering, as I said, baccalaureate of um, um, electrical engineering and specialized in control systems. This is my core studies, and of course, during the study of engineering, you study a lot of other branches. You study part of mechanical engineering. You study part of civil engineering, um, um, and so on. And electrical engineering because I love electricity. So I love building control system. I love building intelligent systems and technology to help people solve problems. Um, Currently, as I said, I don't have a PhD, but currently I'm working in Germany and at a a big technology company, building systems to support our clients in Europe or different parts of the
So
world.
this is with power, with energy, or what are you building exactly?
I'm building control systems with set of mix between software and hardware, installing it in the factories just to help people to optimizing their processes and their factories. Sometimes we use Internet of Things or like circuit design to design certain components and so on.
I see. I mean, the word there I was looking for was optimization. Because when we get into this a little bit more, we're going to be talking about how the ancients
Okay.
optimized. Right, cool.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what was the first thing that you noticed or read that really triggered a paradigm shift or new curiosity? And was it dangerous to talk about or even think about those things openly back then?
So that was, I think, in 2013. I was watching a video, um, and this video for I don't know if you know him, Brian Forster.
Yeah,
He
of
was
course. Peru. He's
um,
brilliant.
it-
Brilliant.
yeah, he's really decent. I met him by the way once in an airport in Munich airport, and we talk a little bit.
Wow.
This video, he was in Karnak, and there was I think in front of a slab of big slab of granite, and there is this core drill, and he was just saying that according to the records, only copper was available at this era or this period, and carving this with copper takes a lot of time, and shaping this big grand slab with only copper is really not efficient at all, and there should be other tools. I think he was referring to Dunn's work, Christopher Dunn's work. So I then went, but this was the spark. This
Yeah.
was the trigger. I start to read and search. Yeah, it makes sense for me because like it was not visible, but when he highlighted, it was clear for me, and I started to dig deep around um, other theories and other ideas.
So for me, it was Graham Hancock, Robert Bivall, and John Anthony West. For you, it was Brian Forster, who I want to give a shout out. I would love to get all these people on the podcast at some point. Brian Forster's got an amazing YouTube channel. He does a lot of research in Bolivia, Peru. He's amazing. He moved to, he lives in Peru, right? He moved or Bolivia.
Peru, currently, he's in Peru. Yeah.
Yeah. So check it out, all your listeners. Now, what was your motivation to start a YouTube channel, which I think was 4 years ago? And
Yeah.
I've just gone through all of them, bit of the research before I came on to you. I mean, they're almost all of them now are hitting 1 million views. And for me, what makes it special is that you've done it in Arabic for the Arabic people. And this is something I just want to highlight, which is what Chris Dunn is sort of championing. He's saying, look, I just want to be a pointer. I want the Egyptian people to take command of their history instead of all the foreigners coming in like, here, the Egyptians did this, the Egyptians did that. Well, let the Egyptians make their own mind up. So what you've become now is like sort of a real hero for these people. I've read all the comments. There's barely a negative comment. I don't read the Arabic ones, but I'm glad that you forced me to watch it in Arabic because it's about time, we started learning and listening to your native language. So what was the motivation for that?
So mainly sharing ideas, sharing thoughts about it. So I noticed that there is a lot of English content. However, in Arabic world, there is no content at all speaking about that. Just maybe 1, 2, 3 books maximum. No videos. So I decided, okay, I want to discuss these theories, these ideas. Let the Egyptian think about it. Maybe we will come up with more and more ideas because most of them or a lot of them make sense to me. So when something makes sense and is logical, why not to share it with others? So this actually was my main motivation, and I decided to do this without advertisement. It was a decision from the beginning. Build the channel with no advertisement.
I feel exactly the same. When I read this stuff, it's so technical. Like the first time I read Fingerprints of the Gods, I hadn't read a book since school, and I was like, geometry, astronomy, quantum physics, what, fractal geometry. I was like, why am I interested in this? But it's getting the gist of the logic of it so that you can describe it to somebody, and it takes a great deal of practice. Now, how long does it usually take you to complete one of those episodes? Because you've got all the special effects and the 3D stuff. I mean, I know it's probably very low budget, but does it cost a lot to produce? And do you get any sponsorship or help for that?
Um, no sponsorship. I was doing it on my own. I learned bunch of stuff. I learned like video production, making videos. Also, of course, all in my own. So I'm learning
Wow.
animation, learning how to Premiere and so on. And you'll of course notice that this in the beginning the animation was poor, the sound quality was not the best, and so on. I and start to improve it. So I learned it on my own. One video, let's say if it's 1 hour, a 1 hour video or 1 hour of video, it takes maybe about 3 months, is because the script really takes long.
Wow.
The
That's
script really takes long just to put the idea in a sequence that everyone, layman style, everyone can understand.
So, like, just the pyramid one, for example, I thought somebody needs to update that a little bit, and obviously with English content. But
Sure.
is that because you've got your engineering background, the software you use for your when you was studying? Is that what you use for that to show the pyramids how it function in 3D?
No, actually, I relies on um, open source
Wow.
items. I modify it. Sometimes I buy 3D models. So some models I build it, but the model of the pyramids, the 3D pyramid in this specific video, I relied on Harvard model. They publish it for free, and anyone can use it.
That's amazing. Well, I want to say thank you very much for that because it blew my mind. I've watched it like 4 times. I was like, finally, I've watched so many little clips on ancient aliens and all these little
Yeah.
history channels and all. I was like, here he's putting it all together. Like, wow, he did it like a Lego set. It's just incredible. Now, did you receive any backlash for the content, or was it mostly well received, especially with the local people?
Um, I would say 90% were received, and maybe, but there was also, of course, backlash many times, and from officials, from other people that they don't like your content, and they decide to attack it either in professional way or non-professional way. So
So,
this is expected actually.
did YouTube try to censor any of your work?
No, no. To be honest, no. It is just maybe if sometimes I use the clips from a certain channel, but I put it in fair use. Sometimes they report it, and I discuss it with them into the fair use, and they just release a request. So in general, I would say no. YouTube didn't try to censor any of my work.
Okay, what did your family and friends think about all of that? Like these new revelations, were they like, "Oh my god, Ahmed's crazy," or "Oh, you're onto something here, son"?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of support from my family. Sometimes we sit together and talk about it. We review the content. We review the video. For, for example, we watched the video with my I watched the video with my family before publishing it. My wife gives some comments. My daughter gives some comments. Sometimes I fix it and republish again. So it was really a good nice experience.
if you ever need a host, if you want to redo it in English, I'll be happy to do that for free.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think
I,
it's
I've,
it's it's it's
I'm
on
a
my
pretty
agenda.
good wordsmith, and I've been improving my podcast voice just for things like that. Now,
Your voice is amazing. Yeah.
I just want to say then, I want to say that, you're telling me it's 3 months to make an episode. And this is something that I care so much about. Like, I read people's books. It takes Chris Dunn 20 years to write a book. I'll
Yeah.
read it with patience. I'll read every word. I'll digest it, everything. I'll reread it until I understand what the intention was. What I can't figure out is how people can just say, this is bullshit
Yeah.
without even picking up the book, without reading the front page. I mean, it's just so childish now. I don't need to justify it, but all I'll say to people who are so hell bent on criticizing, if you haven't studied the content that you have so much time to criticize on, then just what are you doing? What are you trying to do? I think a lot of people, they get jealous because it seems like it's always the one golden balls that comes through. And I totally understand people who spend their entire life studying, they read books, they do everything by the book, and it just doesn't work out for them. They don't end up with that same amount of limelight, and it's bitterness. For me, it's simply bitterness, right? But what I will say is if you've got your heart in the right place and your head's in the right place and you can connect the two, eventually you will be rewarded for that, no matter what. And I think a lot of people need to do that connection, where our bodies is kind of a pyramid, right? Now, have you ever faced losing your job or had any lost face in public for discussing such sensitive or bizarre claims about ancient technology?
No, never. So even when I speak with this in my colleagues in work, they said, "Okay, Ahmed, please translate it because we want to see it." They're very friendly. I didn't face any troubles for that. I'm free to say what I want to say. Of course, this will be criticized, but I never face real danger from that.
Yeah. I mean, the rewards of this stuff being true surely has a bigger benefit for humanity than us living in the darkness of not having no mystery, no magic in the world. Now, who are the most influential researchers and authors, in your opinion, who have opened up this new field of study? Who should we give a shout out to? We've mentioned a few already, but
Um, I mean, I don't want to give it to a certain one because there are many. There are John West. There are um, Robert Schoch,
yeah.
Robert Boval, and Christopher Dunn from Engineering Perspective. They all did, and many others. Really, I don't want to forget anyone. They did really fantastic work, and they have faced the early fire. And this is one important thing because now anyone can say can discuss it. He will face fire, but it was not like the first one,
Yeah.
right? So this really I have to appreciate that. Either I disagree with some points, agree with some points, but I really appreciate what they did to open the door.
Okay. So, what did you personally make of Chris Dunn's first book, The Giza Power Plant? I guess it hit a nerve, as it did
Yeah,
with me. It blew my mind. It
correct.
was,
So this the first book. Actually, to completely understand it, I read it 3 times.
yeah.
So first one, I would say understand like 30%. Okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. This is I don't understand. And then I start to make visits and read other books, and then come back and read it again. Then from 30 to 60% or so. Then I did the same, do some experiments, reading more, and till I didn't understand it very well. So um, I think the idea was brilliant. It resonates with me um, from many perspective. Um, the function of the grid pyramid or the hypothesis that he provided is really amazing, and it's I actually had a meeting with after publishing my video. I had a meeting with. I had an invitation from a physicist professor. Sorry, a physicist professor in Cairo University. He sent me a nice mail. Ahmed, I'm following your videos. Why not come and discuss it about the pyramid video specifically? Then I think we met like 3 times, every time like 2 hours. He actually was the head of science department, head of physics department in science and faculty of science, Cairo University, with a big position.
Physics. You talk about physics, right? Physics department. Yeah.
Physics department, yes.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, head of it. So, and we keep discussing it. And after that, we send the mail to Christopher Dunn and put this in the forward. But he told me that this is brilliant. This brilliant idea. He gives some ideas to have more proof and more points to be sure from. But in general, he supported it. He supported it. So this was actually brilliant. Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. That must have been so exciting for you, right? To be recognized. And I just want to say what I love about you is that you will go and do little mini experiments at home. And yeah, I've been watching a lot of that. These people who do these experiments. I mean, that's really important. And this is more and more evidence building up. If 3 out of 10 experiments don't work, you're just going to say no. But if 8 out of 10 work, it's the skeptics that say, "Oh, but those 2 didn't work." Yeah, but the other 8 did, man. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
So is that when you made first? When did you actually make first contact with Chris, and how did you eventually assist each other?
So I was. I was not a Facebook guy, but Mohammed Ibrahim sent a video to Chris Dunn, I think with the status that, "Hi Chris, this person is really explaining your theory in a nice way," and we add each other's on Facebook. But the first contact I made to him when I read an article about the function of the Queen's chamber. It was published. This was, I think, 2020, I think, something like this. And this was written by Brett Cohen. He is a chemistry scientist, PhD, and he wrote an article in Nexus magazine about the function of the Queen's chamber. He was analyzing Christopher Dunn idea, and he started to suggest an alternative approach. Instead of HCl, he proposed sulfuric acid, H2SO4.
Yeah.
And I sent it to Chris. Hey, Chris, a chemistry scientist is supporting you. Then he took from this was the first contact. He took this and also contact this professor and start to discuss it. And he even included it in his book. So this was the first contact, and then we are talking every while.
That's another important point in respect to Chris, is that Chris has not just sat in his bedroom and made up these ideas to write this book. He's contacted the best of the best. He's got the advice of people that are out of his league who have said, yes, this theory could work, and said, yeah, it could work with this chemical or whatever. It's very, very
Correct.
important to mention that.
Chris Dunn is open-minded person, and he is open-minded for new ideas. And if he discovered certain mistake, he updated.
He'd admit it. And to say that he's wrong, you're going to say that there's all these other people around him that are wrong, which basically contradicts, getting PhDs or becoming an expert, really. Now, it's obvious, even from the amount of views on your YouTube channel, part 9 is the pyramid one, and that the pyramid in their true function is the most attractive subject to those who have been studying this for decades or centuries, or even those who are just getting started on this subject. And I've got friends now that are like, the more I look into the pyramids, the more fascinating I get. Welcome to a world of pain. Now,
Mhm.
just briefly, who do you believe built them, and approximately when do you think they were built? That's a tough
What
question.
what I propose that it was built by Egyptians, but before the dynastic, and these Egyptians are mentioned in several documents. They are mentioned is in Turin, Paris. They are mentioned in Palermo stone. They are mentioned in other places. Um, we have a papyrus from the Middle Kingdom, and he was saying that pyramids were built by Nitru, the Nitru. Nitru, when we say Nitru, the English translation is God. I disagree with this translation, but uh, we can call it the sacred people or the selected people,
Nice.
which are, I think, they are just a human, but with different minds, brilliant human. It is the same way that we are looking for example, for Einstein. Einstein is just a human, but he is, he's brilliant. Um, so we consider him as a netter of physics. So we can call them Shemsuher or pre-dynastic people or the early Egyptians, whatever. Um, Approximately when were they built? What I propose actually is it is something before 7,000 BC to 10,000 BC. Although I'm not 100% sure from the exact period, but this is what I propose because actually this was what was written in in Turin document that these Shamsuher have lived in the era of 13,420 years, and it is written exactly like this. So in this period, I think the pyramid builders were there.
Do you, I mean, this is a little bit of a random question, but I'm just reading the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And they've got this whole idea with Thoth being the builder. Is that ever come up in your network? Is there some
Uh,
truth in that? Or is that just going a bit too far field?
which one? What did you
The
read, sir? About?
the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which says
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Billy
Yeah, yeah.
Carson got me into that stuff. I think it's quite interesting, it's
It's common. It's well known. Yeah. So as I said, we have different names for it, but I think they are
right.
all pointing to the same person, the same group of people.
So
The
Thoth
builder,
could
the
be
Shemsuher.
Ra, Amun Ra, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We are pointing to the same group of people. Yeah,
Okay, I understand that. I mean, that's funny because, like, you look at the Bible, you look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, you look at the story of Samaria. It's all the
correct.
same grand story that's been reinvented
Exactly.
over time, right?
Different names, same people.
Yeah. Osiris, Isis, Horus is becoming like Jesus, Mary, just
Correct.
whatever. Anyway, now Chris Dunn's book was the first time that I got so many answers to the missing pieces of the puzzle. And then I mentioned your video. That was the best and most logical explanation for the true function of the pyramids. Can you explain to the listeners, the new listeners, how these pyramids may have worked based on the latest research and discoveries?
I'm talking about Giza or in general terms.
Just focusing on the Giza for now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of more research is currently in progress in scan pyramids and also the GD and also other missions. Um, um, what I think that about the vibrations under the Giza plateau, this makes sense, which is the hypothesis or the idea, not the idea now, it is actually a fact
Yeah.
from Ferdinand Freund, which says that the tectonic plates of the Earth was moving and this leads to shooting up electrons to top, and pyramids is working as electron harvester. We actually currently planning to do some exercise about that with authorities in Egypt.
Wow.
Currently still in progress for that. We're still looking for some permissions. But I think if it is done and the measure of the data log gives us a good result about that, I think this will be important proof for Chris Dunn theory and also Friedman Freund. However, I think also the pump theory that from John Cadman is also for me makes a lot of sense, because I found a statement in one of the Arab historian writers that the pyramid builders put this actually happened 1 or 2 years 1 year after I published the video. The pyramid builders put pumps after underneath the pyramid. He stated it literally like this. They put pumps under the pyramid, and of course pumps was something like known, but when someone said they put pumps under the pyramid, this like was shocking to me. Oops. I'm pretty sure that John Kahneman didn't read this statement before proposing his theory. So I think both were combined together. So during the flood season, water was working, and during and also for some other periods, there was also this seismic vibrations underneath the plateau. So it is combined together, not just one.
I see. So my basic sort of view of this, what I've learned, I heard there was two shafts, and one of them is positively charged water, which is like your lunar, and then the negative charge water is your solar. So you'll have like water above the ground and water underground, and those two forces would come down into the subterranean channel. And what was very interesting was that video where the construction of the subterranean channel, how the water would spin around, which would create the force and generate what's called a ram pump, where the water would fill up the subterranean channel and it would make a boom, boom, boom. And then you'd have the electrons in the igneous rock underground, which is what Friedman Freud's talking about. He called them earthquake lights. And you have these circular pockets of energy, which naturally they want to find the highest topography, right? So they would race all the way up to the top of the pyramid, which is basically causing some kind of I guess electric charge. So as the water's gone into the two forms of negative and positive water go into the subterranean channel, that gets them pumped up into the Queen's chamber, correct? And then what happens next? Because at the beginning of this podcast, we talked about the original theory where the two shafts that run into the Queen's chamber and the King's chamber. I was originally led to believe that they were the shafts for the dead king to go out. But if that was the case, there was never anybody supposed to be in the Queen's chamber. So that would make absolutely no sense in the design of it, right? So it's said that there was two forms of chemicals that would come down these shafts. What were the two chemicals?
Okay, so the subterranean chamber was used mainly to as a pulse generator. Either it is
pulse generator,
a pulse generator, and these pulses will go up through the Great Pyramid, and that's why the Great Pyramid was built with large stones. This makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yes, totally.
To be able to bear this pulse. Now in the same time, two chemicals were put into the Queen's chamber. This chemicals is zinc chloride.
Yep.
And HCl, which is hydrochloric acid. It can also be other type of acid. It can be H2SO4, as proposed by Dr. Cohen. The products of these two chemicals, whatever they are, is hydrogen.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the hydrogen, when hydrogen is formed, it will go through the the shaft of the Queen's Chamber, and then goes up to the
Grand Chamber.
Grand Gallery,
Grand Gallery.
and then from the Grand Gallery it goes to the King's Chamber.
So just hang on 1 second, just for the listeners, because
Okay.
this is the technical point of view. So what you're doing is using these two chemicals to separate the hydrogen from the charged water that's come pumped up through the subterranean chamber, and then you have now charged hydrogen that gets forced out of the Queen's Chamber into the Grand Chamber. Now, just before we get to that point, when was it the Queen's Chamber where they put the robot up the shaft?
Yes.
And they found a door, and you know the critics will say that this door is a magical door for the king.
Yeah.
Don't forget, it's supposed to be the King's Chamber where the sarcophagus was for the king, not the Queen's Chamber. And I just want to point out, to get into these chambers, if there was a load of people trying to carry a dead body, you'd be on your knees, like trying to. It's just stupid. If you're going to build, I think it was you that put in your video that if you're going to build a temple for a tomb for a dead king, you would have big doors at the bottom. You make it very easy access. Mm-hmm. But what I just want to point out is when they found this door, there are two electrodes on the door, which shows that the chemicals, when they come down the shaft, they can be, what do you call the word? They can be regulated. So this door would act like a regulator that would allow certain chemicals to come through to allow this reaction. But they discovered something behind that door when they managed to find, the robot that was capable of drilling through it. According to Chris, they found a little stump of a sight ticket from 1970. And the only way that paper stump could have got in the back of this door in a chamber was if it had have blown in from an outlet outside in the desert, which I was going to ask you, where were the chemicals entered into the pyramid? And there's these giant big holes in the ground outside, and there's a tunnel which is now boarded off. But that could have been the entrance, and that would make sense if they were pouring these chemicals from the outside, so they didn't have to interfere with the structure, just like you would do in any power plant. So that, to me, is a really big piece of evidence there. They found a piece of paper behind a door that's never been opened, and the only way that could have got in there is if it had blown in a sandstorm from the outside before that hole was boarded up, correct? Is that fact?
I will tell you a nice story. I was in December 2023 in the Queen's Chamber with a group, and there was an engineer named Jan. He was a radar engineer, and he was like cleaning for the shaft, and he asked a question. Wow, what is this sand? Where it comes from? There's a lot of sand in the shaft.
Cool.
I said to him, do you think that this shaft may be open, exposed to the outside? I said, okay, this is only justification, because a lot of sand, like maybe 300, 400 grams in very short distance. The other thing that he smelled some, he said, and this is like weird odor. It's looked like
rotten eggs.
I told him chemicals. Yes, it looks like chemicals.
Sulfur smell. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not aware of Christopher Dunn theory, because he was focusing on radar, GPRs specifically, and I told him I'd start to explain him Christopher Dunn theory about the reaction of the Queen's Chamber. He said, I think this is the only reason why that this shaft is exposed to something outside, because what we see here is, I think there is a ways to prove this. There's ways to prove this, because this also Christopher put in his video and his book, that there is some, like a small panel on the right side of one of the shafts that could be connected to outside. If it is, then it will raise up during the using just the normal capillarity capillarity phenomena. You know, when you have a water, and when you have a thin tube of glass,
Yeah.
the water will raise automatically to it as part of the capillarity phenomena. So
Well,
if there
all you
is,
need all you need to do really, I can't remember who mentioned it, maybe it was Chris, but all you need to do is just pump water from the outside and
you
see
just
if it
need
comes
to put,
see if it comes into the shaft, which they will never allow. But that would be one way to figure out where that water goes, right? Even if you
yeah,
had a ton of water inside the Queen's chamber and you pumped it up the shaft, where would it come out? Where would it exit? There have to be an exit point, and that would prove that point, 100%.
if you put a certain pressure outside, it will the liquid or the fluid will automatically raise inside the pyramid.
Okay, so the answer to that question is, if anybody wants to know, is like, where did the chemicals come from? There would be some like holes in the ground outside, and
Yes.
you like you say that you can lift those up with pressure, and then they would come down these shafts, be regulated by these doors, which have these very clear electrodes on there. And
Yeah.
even I won't go into it, but read Chrissy's book because there's more information about the symbols on the back of the door, which is phenomenal. I mean, to me, that's just the smoking barrel right there. But I won't do, I won't. Anyway, so then what happens is the charged hydrogen goes into the grand chamber. Inside the grand chamber, I've been in there. These blocks are ginormous. And as you say, the only reason you would use big blocks is for the resistance. You're talking about a massive amount of pressure here. There's no point in using little bricks. These are what, 100 ton, 80 ton? And they're raised so high up it's just a massive amount of work to do that. So what would happen inside the grand chamber next?
So now the king's chamber will start to vibrate,
That's
and
right.
this was tested by a sound engineer named Tom Danley. He
Yep.
created an experiment in 1995 and reached out that okay, the king's chamber resonates till it's about to they run away, so they were afraid that it may collapse, or so they stopped the experiment.
Yeah.
So the resonance the king's chamber will reach the resonance state from due to the pulses comes out um, from the subterranean chamber.
Yeah.
And as I have explained that the king's chamber work as a cavity box, as a maser, giant maser. We have the waveguide,
Yeah.
we have the box,
Yeah.
which act as crystal, and then we have the output antenna, where the microwaves is coming out of it.
Your
And you
video
have the
really
final
shows
product
that.
is
Your
yeah.
video shows how that sarcophagus was blown back as well, which makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
So inside the grand chamber, there would be these what you could call Helmholtz resonators, and for basic terms, anybody's listening doesn't understand. It's like when you blow air into an empty beer bottle, you get like a. Well, what you'd be getting here is you get electrified hydrogen, which along the grand chamber. When I went in there, I believe the story that these notches, they were like these little notches in the wall. That's where they had this. They would pull this boat, which would have the dead body of the king on this boat, and these holes in the walls were where the cogs would roll as they pulled this boat up. But the thing is, you don't understand, is to get the king into there through the little tiny shaft makes no sense at all. So what these holes in the groundwork could have been where these basically tuning forks were against the wall, and these things would resonate with this charged hydrogen. And then once that hits that resonation stage, it then goes into the grand chamber, and then we get into the whole microwave maser thing, and then that energy would then fire up to the apex of the pyramid. But what was the point in the shafts inside the king's chamber then?
So the idea is the northern shaft is a waveguide. Waveguide.
Waveguide.
If someone is not familiar with waveguide, if you have a microwave device, open it, you will find a small rectangle. This actually is the waveguide where the wave comes from, and this waveguide is um, with width about 8.4, which is then considered that it is sufficient for, according to the calculation, sufficient to the hydrogen waveguide, and it's true actually. Um, waveguide pass through the crystal, which is in this case the sarcophagus. Um, originally, it was it is original location. Now it is stuck to the ground, by the way, but it was like it was free, and 1 year ago it was just free for moving. 1 year ago, now it is fixed. So between the two openings with this sarcophagus, and yeah, according to the theory that um, it acts as a cavity with guide path through it. The the chamber itself works as a power supply for this maser, and you have the output for the antenna, where the microwaves as output coming out from this antenna,
So
and
the, the
it's
the microwave energy goes through those shafts into the outer casing of the pyramid. There was like an insulation, right?
yes.
And then the big question is, what do you do with that? What would be the function of that? What would it do with all that power? You're talking about clean energy here. And is it implosion or explosion?
It is so if you have a microwave
Yeah.
outside the pyramid, you have like unlimited ideas how to make use of these microwaves. As of today, we have the possibility to convert microwaves to any form of energy, like electrical energy, for example, by using
Yeah.
a small circuit named Rectana. Um, but I think they didn't do so. My assumption, that the microwave hits the ionosphere,
Right.
right? And when it hits the ionosphere, it creates a kind of surrounding, a kind of healthy surrounding around, not around the pyramid itself, but around the whole area.
Yeah, like a dome.
Exactly, like a dome. But this
Interesting.
dome, oh, yeah, and this dome covers a wide area. I'm not sure till where, but I indeed believe that it was till the capital, till Heliopolis.
Yeah.
Um, and
Basically,
now,
you could power a civilization wirelessly, right?
yes, part of it, yes, yes, you
And
can power it.
there's loads of TV shows like these sci-fi things where it's about people living inside a dome. When I think about domes, I think about like when you have like a snake, a pet snake or whatever, and you can regulate the temperature in its tank. That could also be a possibility. You could do multiple things with this. If you're controlling a dome over a civilization, you could control the weather, control the heat, control the energy supply, you control possibly the way people
The
think,
plants, yeah, yeah.
the plants, agriculture, everything. Because this is your prime energy source. It makes complete sense to me. Um, Very interesting. Now, when the builders choose a site such as Giza, what tool would they have needed in modern technology to identify the mass buildup of energy from the ground? And that would make that site ideal for a proposed electron harvester. So we're going into the Freedom and Freud. How do you recognize this energy underground, these electrons when they're firing up? What would be the thing that you would see in the sky?
I spoke with Dr. Taha Rabeh about that because he is earthquake specialist. He's a head of currently he's a head of what's called NIRAJ. It is the organization responsible for measuring earthquakes in Egypt.
Yeah.
Ask him, okay, how can we get? He is aware of Friedman Freund's theories. He is aware of all of that, and I asked him, is there a way to make sure of this? He started to explain theoretically what is this theory about and how can we measure it? And he actually proposed that we can set up a system with data logger for like 1 2 weeks, and it will tell us exactly if there is kind of vibrations under the Giza plateau, because the Giza plateau now is actually, and unfortunately, different from like
Yeah.
10,000 years ago. Flood is no longer there. There is
Yeah.
underground water. There is modern houses.
There's a desert.
Um,
There's a fucking desert, isn't
exactly, exactly.
there? That's got to
Um,
be it's got to be a little clue, like to the future. Don't make your world into a desert.
and yes, so but there is a way, economically, there is a way that we can measure and identify um, this idea. Um, what's called earthquake lights. I checked the resources what we have here. It was not noticed before in Egypt, but because it's something new. I mean, we have a big earthquakes happened in 90s and 1990s. But this hypothesis or this theory was not yet clear. So um, it was not there to figure out. But I think the what we can make use of the measures, because we know that the tectonic plates, which where the Egypt is over it, is moving like 3 millimeters every year. So
Ah.
there is movement for the Egyptian tectonic plate um, every year, and this can be measured, and we can decide what is the outcome of this.
What about the reaction with the electrons in the sky? What happens? I mean, that would,
Hmm.
for me, that would be like, oh, hang on, there's something happening in the sky. So that for
Yeah.
me would be a very good area to maybe to build something like a pyramid. What's the reaction? Where do we get that from? The lights.
Um, so according to Dr. Professor Ferdinand Freund, when there is a tectonic movement under the earth uh, of various metals, this will leads to shooting of electrons upwards.
Yeah.
And he did an experiment for that. I tried to do it actually, but it was very hard to. It required certain devices. But he bring a 4 meter granite slab, and he did a lot of pressure, about like 50,000 atmospheric pressure,
Yeah.
or 50,000 Pascal probably on one of them, like 10,000 tons. And he started to receive picoamperes out of it. Then he was able to prove that this is happening. Now, if you apply the same concept in the Giza Plateau, you have like thousands and thousands of tons,
Yeah.
right? So expect more energy is coming out of it. So if we are talking about current of like picoamperes, why not a million of volts coming out from this the pyramid?
Yeah.
So it acts as the same. So you know the Tesla tower, when it's a 2 million of volts
Yeah.
discharge, voltage discharge, and where you're able to make use of it to harvest this energy and try to light up something, or have uh, cars, electric cars moving in this area. I think it is the same concept for the Great Pyramid, which is as artificial mountains.
So just to summarize that a little bit, it's complicated for some listeners. So imagine you're in the old days and you see these glowing lights above a specific site, and you would realize that that would be some kind of reaction coming from the ground. You've got these electrons firing up from seismic
Yep.
movement. So if you wanted to harvest that, it makes sense to build the biggest like harvester. And if you look at the pyramid, the base of it is so wide and it's collecting all that energy from the ground. Um, so you look at ancient sites like Stonehenge and stuff, these could have also been some kind of like, original harvester of energy. And that's where
Yep.
you get the druids and the witches would go down there because there was healing qualities. So even the most basic, if you've got seismic movement underground and you've got two giant boulders that are leaning on each other and that energy is firing up, it would get stuck under the two boulders and it would actually cause a sort of pyramid. of energy that I'd just be harvesting. And apparently that's what became like the inner sanctum of a lot of very sacred places, like the original ziggurat. The first level was that, and then they would build these temples up, and only the wizards or the highest priest would have access to these places that would heal you. And you know, what did Tesla always say? That electricity heals everything. Very, very interesting. I think we did that decent justice. And just also, I do want to remind everybody, Friedemann Freud, Friedemann, He's got a really good TED talk, which Chris Dunn recommended to me, and I watched it. And what he's suggesting there is, if we identify that these ions, electrons, do react underground, we can predict way before an earthquake comes along and save people. And they've proven it already. They did prove it on that TED talk. So why do you think seismologists are yet to pick up on this?
Because I think this is a source of energy that we have overlooked. We are focusing on other types of energy, like, of course, fuel. Like we start recently to focus on or look for clean energy like sun and wind, but still our like over 90% sort of energy still on fuel. So why not exploring other sources of energy, like the movement of the earth? So that's where I start to spoke with Dr. Tarabi and also Dr. Lotfi. Dr. Lotfi is also a specialist in seismology, and he is also a relative of me. He got a PhD, and we speak from time to time also about that. Although I think it's still required sometimes, because it's something that is completely new.
I mean, the obvious thing to me here, critical, is that I think that a group of people have known about this technology from the beginning, and it would make sense to cover it up, because then, you know, using what we're using now, it creates a monetary system. Everybody has to pay. Even if you look into the history of Tesla and Edison built Paris, which was the first city of electricity, you know, and there's an Eiffel Tower in Paris, which is funny. And the second city was New York, which also Tesla worked on. And you've got the two towers in New York in Battery Park. And Edison asked Tesla, like, I want high arc lighting with a low generator. And Tesla said to him, I'll give you it all for free. And that's not what they wanted, because they wanted to take gas into electric and become a utility bill that everybody would pay. And now basically that's where you're stepping into the realms of who's going to give up this power for clean energy, because it basically wipes out an entire empire. And I think that's the honest truth right there. I really do. I can feel it in my bones. Now, what would be the function of the other two pyramids at Giza?
I think it serves the same purpose. However, it works in a different manner. So different designs mean different working style, but it could be the same target. Just to
Right.
make it easy to everyone to understand, I can reach out my target with a car, and I can reach out my target with a bicycle. Working different way, different energies, but it serves the same purpose. So I think the two other pyramids behaving the same, because it's the same, like the same size, the same or similar size, the same design from outside, different designs from inside. I believe it also serves because it has the same slabbing doors, where I believe that there is kind of fluids entered for the second pyramid, and it's also shut down in a certain time. So
just let me back you up. There is evidence of similar a similar setup in the other two pyramids? Because I've only really focused on the Grand Pyramid.
it is, I would say, like similar by 50% from
Wow.
inside. So there is shafts there is a sarcophagus in both.
Right.
There is several rooms, although it is different in shape. So there is no, for example, in the second pyramid there is no granite. There's no relieving, what's called relieving chamber or resonance chamber.
So
So there
they
are
could have been could have been
some stuff is common and some is different. Yeah.
they could have been sort of like a backup, like a reserve of energy or something.
I would say it was mandatory for the function of the whole thing, because
Yeah.
it is obviously a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Um, although I think I'm still thinking on it also from time to time, um, because actually the studies on the other two pyramids is much less than the great. Everyone wants to make studies on the great
Yeah.
pyramid. The other two pyramids don't have the same high attention.
And that might be one of the reasons why we're not going to get to the bottom of it. You have to look at everything together as a working
Correct.
system.
Correct.
Now, so many critics and a lot of my friends have asked this question. They want to know where all the so-called advanced machine parts are. Why haven't we found any evidence lying around or anything's been excavated of any kind of machines?
Because we are looking with our own modern eyes. This is the problem.
Yeah.
So if I show one of my videos I show people in one of my trips. I show people a piece of paper
Yeah.
with many holes. I asked them, "What is this?" Someone said, "Just a piece of paper." The other said, "It was just a card." One other said, "I don't know what it is," because it's just a piece of paper, and it turned to be a punch card.
Yeah.
Punch card is what was used to store data
Yeah.
40 years ago. So if I show it to someone, I will never think that there is data in this punch card. It is today like CD, and it is everyone is who is listening. It is a grandfather of the floppy disk,
Yeah.
CD, and USB.
Well, I mean,
But no one.
look at Star Wars. You've got all the junkyards, right? And they're selling all the parts and then they're recycling that metal or whatever into other things. I mean, it's as simple as that. I didn't clock that. I didn't think about that till just recently. I was like, yeah, and they're not going to leave these parts around with valuable metals and stuff, are they?
No, so we are looking. That's my point. They were looking with our modern glasses to the past. That's why we figured out that no, where are the machines? No, it is not like the way that we are thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, if you just another example, if you found a microchip, but you didn't find the laptop, you wouldn't know what the microchip was for. And you could be
Exactly.
talking about very small parts, and you've got tons of sand there as well. You know, there could be loads of stuff. Now, do you think that the pyramids and other ancient sites around the world could be connected and were used on a global scale, with Giza being sort of the epicenter of the energy source?
Um, my initial thought about that is no, there is no global connection.
Right.
However, I mean, they are following the same principles. So, purpose of the pyramids in Egypt is the same as purpose of the pyramids in Mexico,
Yeah.
but they are not connected. So, knowledge behind this is the same, but they are not connected.
Has anybody managed to get inside? Like, I've been to Teotihuacan, I've climbed the Pyramid of the Sun. Has anybody been in there and found like a similar setup yet? Or has that
There was
not been allowed?
there were some acoustic experiments
Yeah.
in pyramids of Mexico,
Yeah.
and they found that okay, they are resonating also like the Giza pyramid, resonating in a certain frequencies, and if any modifications happen in this room, it start to stop resonating because they tune it in a specific frequency. So both of them have water source beside it,
Yeah.
same shape, probably tunnels under it. Both of them, for example, the pyramid of Sun in Mexico have mica underneath it. They found mica, the mica stones, which was found actually also in the pyramid of Dashur.
Oh.
And mica means it is a Roman word, mica stone. It means shining. So it's very connected to the name and also the meaning of the stone. Notice also the two pyramids of Dashur, the Red Pyramid and the Bent Pyramid. The name of the Red Pyramid named Khmer. Khmer means the shining pyramid,
Wow.
and the other one named Khmer Receipt, the shining pyramid in south. So it is, when we hear shining, they thought, okay, like the sun. No, why not? Why not actually actual shining? Why not actual shining? It has its meaning. So a lot also is hidden in the Egyptian ancient Egyptian language that was overlooked.
So you mean that these are shining because of the energy that's being harvested through them, right?
Yeah,
Not from the sun. Excellent.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe
And
so.
did you say that was called cam? Like I mentioned the word cam before, that meant shield. You know, like did you say it was called cam?
Khmer. Khmer.
Cam, cam. Okay, okay.
Uh,
All right.
Mer
So
means pyramid. Kha means the shining. Yeah,
I see, I see. So yeah, there were structures possibly glowing. That's very
exactly.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, assuming the pyramids are a power station, what would be the function of having all these obelisks around?
What I propose also, I know this maybe not fancy, but the obelisk, even in the ancient Egyptian language that was written in it, obelisk was illuminated objects. This from what I proposed. It was shining, it was illuminated. And we have this written on it, written. So one of the two the one of the obelisks which is currently in Rome, it says it's stopped from gold and it illuminated Thebes, which is Luxor.
Yeah.
Other in Iono, which is Heliopolis, it's literally stated, Iono is full of illuminated obelisks. And also in Karnak, we have two obelisks for Hatshepsut. It stated that it illuminated the earth or
Wow.
illuminated the land. So I believe that the obelisk, this was not just words that written for no reason. No, it was actually pointing to its function or its properties. And yeah, I mean, if the pyramids through charges or energy, then you can harvest it with other object, with obelisk, with object with obelisk from with top of metal or any other way. So not
Which
necessarily
is
obelisk,
it's basically
but
what a pylon in modern terminology would be a pylon, but they've got wires, whereas this would have been a wireless system.
could be, could be.
So you could have these obelisks in other cities or whatever in the middle that would take the electricity from the pyramid, and then yeah, you just
Exactly. Because
it makes sense.
why rose granite? Why just single piece? It was a must. It was not just like, no, it was a must to be single piece. It was a must to be from rose granite.
Yeah,
So
and I think
it has
that's
a true
why
purpose.
they've made a big effort to put obelisks all around the world in very important places. You've got one in Washington D.C., you got one in London, one in Vatican, one in front of Eiffel Tower. I mean, it's like those are, to me, those are monuments to the ancient civilization, the ancient tech. And what we've done now is replace them with the new towers, right? I believe that skyscrapers or things like Eiffel Tower are modern day electron harvesters. I really do. Creating a
Correct.
dome over me. So what we started with was smartphone, then it was smart TV, then it's smart city and smart grid, right? And then you just to give you a little thing, like 10, I've been in Vietnam 15 years, and I told a friend of mine 10 years ago they were going to build two big towers. They've managed to build two big towers, and now after that they've introduced the electric car, which I found very weird. But at the bottom of the landmark, which is the highest tower in Saigon, there's two pyramids, just structures. To me, again,
Yeah.
it's one of them. You know, thanks a lot. um, do you believe that there has been a conscious and deliberate effort to cover up or hide advanced ancient knowledge from a possible lost civilization? And you're not supposed to use that word now, but that's the question.
Um, I would say, I mean, from the modern society, or from the
Yeah.
ancient
Do you
society.
believe there's been a conscious effort to hide this from
Uh,
the
uh, uh,
modern society?
I I would say no, but they are overlooking evidences. Uh, I would say they are not doing this, hiding something intentionally, but they just don't care much. Okay, no, I'm not interested in deeper look on or different perspective. They just don't care.
Okay. And that could be because of power and greed, I guess. um, Hakeem mentioned in the Pyramid Code that there are certain sites which could have been used for healing. He did mention about, for example, a physician could analyze a disease in the body using some kind of hologram technology. And by pinpointing the affected area and eradicating the issue. And Tesla, I mentioned this, also talked about how electricity could be used to heal any kind of disease. Now, how likely do you think is it that we already have this technology which cures cancer based off ancient technology, but it seems to only be available to special people?
Yeah, I think many of what is called temples, many of what is called temples was actually healing sites,
Yeah.
originally healing site, and they did not use. I mean, they was using the nature for healing. Um, by the way, it was still like 1950s. Many of these places were still used. So in Hilwan, we have a lake where people go and work
Oh,
themselves
wow.
and doing better. It's still in Siwa. So it's still in native, what's called native places, where you can
Amazing.
heal from the sand and heal from the water without taking drugs or medicines to heal yourself. So natural healing, they still exist in Egypt.
Yeah, the same springs that they have in Florida. Until these places get polluted with things like radium and
Yes,
stuff.
yes, yeah.
Um, so um, what do you think crippled the function of the pyramids? I mean, even me, I've been around. It's clear that there was some explosion in the grand chamber, and when you go around some of the pyramids, you can see how the edges of the pyramid seem to have blown out, as though if there was a reaction inside the grand chamber of that pyramid, it might have affected other pyramids and then caused them to explode from the inside. What could have caused that?
Um, there is a disaster happened in the ancient times, and what is many people don't like recognize that it is written, actually written.
Right.
And let me bring you one text about that. So we have a stela named Tempest Stela. Tempest Stela. It mentioned that most of the pyramids were destroyed. Most of the pyramids are destroyed. Literally, it's still like this. And we have another stela, or another papyrus from Middle Kingdom. It says that um, let me tell you. It is called Papyrus Berlin 3024. It's says that all all the pyramid builders are sacred, but now they are destroyed, and their monuments are destroyed. They died beside the river, and there was no savers. Flood killed them, and the sun killed the other half. So
Wow.
flood killed the first half, and the sun killed the other half. I'm just translating it quickly from English to Arabic. So maybe
Yeah.
but this is the meaning. So it is it is stated that a pyramid builder was died due to a catastrophe, and this of course impacted the pyramids itself. So there's cracks in the pyramids.
Yeah.
Overflow happened. Um, Operations was failed, and then it all gets stopped.
It would be like a modern day Chernobyl. And then when you look at the surrounding area, with it being desert, you have to ask the question. I mean, they would never build these things in the desert. You go to Cambodia, Siem Reap, there's no water around them temples anymore because, you know, you either burn all your resources, the water gets polluted, or there's a natural disaster which kills everybody. And then the fact that there's all that sand there, you know, that what is sand? It's silicone, right? It's all broken down bits of something that's been destroyed.
Mhm.
Now, what is the new evidence that we are anticipating next with the scam pyramid project, which you brought up before, but for most listeners, they won't understand what scam pyramid means. But what's this we're waiting for now? What's this new tech?
So what's currently everyone is seeking for is the big void. Everyone tried now to know what exactly in the big void.
The big
So as a
void
scam pyramid
inside the Great Pyramid. There's an
inside the Great Pyramid
undisclosed room. Yeah.
above the Grand Gallery. There is the smaller void was explored in February, and they found a 9-meter rooms with chevron ceiling, but it was empty.
Again,
Um, Currently, I'm looking for
again empty rooms. It's like wow.
again. I'm looking for the other void, which is big, about 40 meters plus or 40 meters above the Grand Gallery. But the problem with that one is that there is no direct connection with any opening area. So they need to find a way to drill inside and go inside, trying to search for any kind of what can help to
Now,
understand the pyramid.
will any new revelation, could that potentially destroy this whole theory of crystal, or could it also add to it? Could it back it up?
Well, I think what will happen is adjusting. I
Right,
don't think that will be destroy. It will
adjusting.
just be it will adjusting it a little bit. So okay, evidence for we found something. Okay, let's adjust it. And this is actually this is science. Um, Adjust
I think we
your
should also
theory
point
based
out
on
that
the findings.
anytime there's new exploration and these people say it's the first time they've got in the room, there's a chance that they could have got in there and cleared the whole thing out. And you know, this God knows what's underneath the new museum in Egypt that's not disclosed. I'm very, very interested to know the full facts. Um, Now, what do you make of the so-called vases, or I think they're called the Sabu discs in the museum? Because I went there with an Egyptologist and she said, these are the vases. And I was like, even before I even thought about technology, I was like, that doesn't look like a vase and that looks pretty
Mm,
damn round.
mm,
What I
mm.
used to think there was something to do with anti-gravity or definitely aerodynamic. But what would you think from an engineer's point of view? What does it look like? These are
Currently,
round discs,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. The subject currently they have, by the way, changed the label. So they have removed the label of the valve and put
Yeah.
something else.
Oh, they've changed it. Fuck it.
They changed it because it doesn't make any sense. So
I
they
want my
said
money back. I want a refund. I want my money.
uh, and currently they stated that it is. I mean, it's clear that it's unknown. Yeah, it is. There is a shaft probably inside it. There is an X because it's empty from the middle. It's circular. Um, I have, by the way, I have a one. I have a printed one. Maybe I'll bring it to you. I have a printed one, and I
Go
try
on,
to
yeah.
figure out.
Get it. Oh, get it. Is it
Just
get
a
it?
sec.
Go on, go on. Go and get it. I want to show everybody. Fascinating, isn't it? I'm absolutely blown away. What a guy. So you can see why I've had this curiosity for so long. It just never ends.
So I have it here.
Wow, look at that. Fantastic.
Yeah. Some funny people, some funny Egyptian people call it the steering of
Steering
the
wheel.
pharaohs, but the steering wheel of the pharaohs. But I tried to really to think about it. I tried to rotate it to search about uh, what is really the function of it. I'm unable to find something. I know that Airbus, the German company, doing a lot of analysis on it, trying to get it, and then they said that it is ceremonial
Nah.
object
What would
for
they make?
fire.
What are they made from?
And the real one is made from the chest stone, which is hard stone or scale of 4. But what's really weird is this.
Yeah.
They bent it. So it is not like only carving, but feel like they bent it as if we
Yeah,
are bending the iron.
that's
Yeah.
incredible. There is a guy, I saw a video on YouTube and he built a replica and he was doing some experiments with it. And it's just something that spins around really fast. I
Yeah.
used to think it was some like part of some kind of like conveyor belt where you could iron electrify the stones, the the crystal inside the granite, using
Mhm.
them somehow spinning around, and then you could just like let the bricks float along a conveyor belt kind of thing. I don't know,
Yeah.
but Airbus is what is it? An aerodynamics company,
Airbus is it is building actually. It is like Boeing in US.
right?
Airbus is in Europe, so
Which
building
basically they design all kinds of
planes
things,
and
SR
yeah,
seventy
yeah,
one, and yeah.
yeah,
All right.
exactly.
So what we're looking at there is corporation company trying to look into ancient tech, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they know what it is. Now, apparently, as well, this is a new revelation after reading Chris's book. But vases, these, I'm not going to go too much into the whole vase thing, but what we've found now is evidence of super precise vases, which they've measured down to the thickness of a hair, which is just incredible precision. You can't do that on a pottery wheel. But apparently, vases were also used as acoustical devices, which the Greeks learned from the Egyptian schools. Is there anything you can add to that, like used in theaters, for example, to elevate sound or whatever?
Yeah. I did some experiments on what's called Helmholtz resonators.
Yeah.
I'm able to make notations of it, and yeah, the buses is a big topic. Currently, I know that there's a running study uh, f- um, with some parties about doing other scans for vases in the Egyptian Museum, and to make a wide range of scanning and start to do comparison between the different types of vases. Um, I would say, yeah, Chris and Ben probably proposed an idea about its function. I would say till now, till the day, I really don't know what it could be. It can act as a Helmholtz resonator, but we need a tight neck, so it cannot be like it cannot have a wide neck. It needs to be a tight neck. And there is evidence for that, by the way, also in the Egyptian Museum. There is some resonator with very tight neck, which is separated from it. Buzz is amazing from engineering perspective. True function, I'm still thinking about it for
Well,
more
as a
time.
DJ, I'm a DJ, and cones, especially cones, are what you make speakers out of. So,
Mhm.
like when I went to Mexico, you go to Chichen Itza, you can clap your hands at the bottom of the step pyramid, and you can hear the reverberation. So, if a young king would have stood at the top of the pyramid, his voice would have sounded louder, and he would have sounded like
Mhm.
all godly. So, you could use these like sound effects, like movies. Um,
So,
Very interesting. Now, if
by the way,
done,
just to add one thing, yeah, voice and sound is very important in ancient Egypt.
yeah.
So sound was for healing, and there is Hatur, which is netter of sound and sing. So yeah, sound is using for improving body and healing and so on.
And I have two cats, and I've always been interested in why cats purr. They've never really been able to scientifically prove it, but when I'm feeling a bit like, I don't know, stressed out, the cat comes and lies on me and she purrs. And I think that's something to do with this healing, this resonance. They can pick up the sound that you can't hear, and that's definitely, yeah, healing,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, if Dunn's theory is accepted and proven to be correct, what are the pros and cons for modern society?
For Tom theory,
If Christopher Dunn's theory is proven to be
ah,
correct and it's accepted by
yeah,
mainstream, what would be the pros and cons for modern society? Because obviously, a lot of people will be like, they'd have to change their entire perspective.
yeah. I mean, a thousand of books, currently a thousand, if not more, is written about the Tom theory. And now, what is shaking about Dunn's theory is that no, it doesn't make any sense to have it as a tomb. I have received many mails from Egyptian Egyptologists and discussions that they believe that the pyramids are not tombs, at least
I
the gigantic pyramids. But
100%
this is, they cannot
agree.
say this in public because this is actually in books and they teach it.
Yeah.
But between themselves, they know that it is not. So, and this will actually, if it is accepted, it will change the whole story. So, no, now we are looking to the pyramid as machines or other structures.
Now,
Um,
if it was me, for example, and I'd wrote 10 books about ancient Egypt without having this theory in my mind because I didn't have access to the new technology, I wouldn't mind somebody else coming along and adding to it, which is what Chris has always stated, that he just wants to be the pointer and he wants now for the younger generation to try and figure it out. Me personally, I'd be like, well, at least I was a part of the journey and I tried my best with the tools that I had. But it seems to me like there's a lot of people that are just unwilling to do that. They're scared because maybe it affects their status quo, that people won't take them serious. There's a lot of tour guides in Egypt that make a living out of telling this story. And then now this new story kind of like goes against everything they've ever taught. But
yeah.
I believe you've got to be open-minded about that. And this is got to be good for mankind. It can't be bad.
That's why I think the change will come from the young people because they didn't write any books, they didn't say any stories, so they are fresh to
Yeah.
start from
Now,
the beginning.
what do you say is the general attitude or belief of Egyptians now, especially children? For me, it must be a very exciting time for you.
Yeah, indeed. So I speak with a lot of young people about that. Many of the young people believes, especially if they are non-Egyptologists, away from the Egyptology. So like doctors, like engineers, like specialists in science, technologists, they believe that no, the pyramids cannot be tombed. The pyramid cannot be built by these very primitive ways. There's something else. But again, we go again that who is dominating the narrative? The university. And if the university is dominating it, then they will keep teaching that without opening the area or the opinions for any other perspective. They give you that, and this is what you have to. If you want to pass, you have to write this,
Yeah.
and yeah, and up to you later. If you want to change your point of view, it's up to you. But this is the narrative.
You know, I grew up in Manchester, England, and I remember going to history class, and I think we had one lesson on ancient Egypt, and I was kind of like, I want to see more. Like, let's have a look at more of the pictures. It was like a slideshow, and boom. And then I just remember we used to get these cards inside, like English tea. You buy a box of tea, and you get these, the seven wonders of the world. And I remember I got the Sphinx card and the pyramid card, and I just look at it forever. I was like, why do I not know more about that? Why am I learning about, Big Ben? So I'm from a generation that didn't get any chance to learn about ancient Egypt. It came to me much
uh,
later, which is sad.
mhm.
It's bloody sad. Now, there's actual real talk about restoring this pyramid, which you mentioned before. Maybe you're going to do some kind of mini scale version of it. I mean, this is a very tough proposal, but do you think it would be possible um, to bring the pyramid back with an unlimited budget? Restore? Could it be done?
No,
No, because the site's
simply
not this.
you are talking about restoring the original pyramid, right, or building a model.
Oh yeah, we couldn't restore the original site because obviously the
You cannot.
landscape's changed. But is there
Yeah,
a chance you could
everything is changed.
replicate? You could create a new mini version of it or something like an actual working. Did you say you're working on that at the moment? Are you putting that together?
So I would say partially. I haven't the chance to replicate it all, but
Right.
on some parts. I think
Amazing.
Doctor, Gamal Al-Fuli.
I've
Gamal
heard of him.
Al-Fuli. Yeah, I thought that you put a quote from him. He is currently
Ah, yeah,
he
yeah,
built
sure, sure.
several models. If you check his Facebook, he built he has different theory about the pyramid machine. It is a machine, but it's working in a different way. He is currently building models. He built two models from actual model. with
Wow.
granite and so on. He's currently working on it. I'm sometimes in contact with him. I hope I have the chance to will have the chance to visit him because he is currently in US, living in US. But he have different perspective, and he is replicating the model. From our side or from my side, I I think it would be very hard to make a complete model. We work on chunks. So John Cannon works on the subterranean chamber. Chris works on the reaction chamber or Queen's chamber. Robert Wouter, I saw his model, was working on the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber. Unfortunately, have passed away.
Yeah.
But it's still pieces, not a full model.
That's really, really exciting news. I'd love to be alive to see that. Um, if we could do this, if we could create a clean source of energy, how long would it realistically take to adapt from our current fossil fuel system to a clean energy system if we could replicate the design?
I think the current world governments and setup is not interested in clean energy.
Right.
They are not interested. They are focusing.
But I
So
mean,
although we
if
have
would it be a smooth transition? Would it happen like, in a year, in a 2 years, or would take a long time?
long time. So currently, the source of energy, I mean, seismic energy is not part of country is not on focus. They are focusing on fuel number one, number two and three and four is wind, sun, and probably other sources. But I think 85 to 90% is still fuel, and it is the main focus. And I see no change in the next 50 years.
Okay. Now, this is one of my own personal little beliefs, but I believe that the Tesla Tower technology has always been functioning in the form of modern skyscrapers, as I mentioned before. Do you think it's possible to adapt the pyramid design into modern skyscrapers, where they could be some kind of receiver from a secret power source somewhere else, which ultimately are powering the new smart cities with the same kind of technology as the pyramids?
Uh, yeah, correct. Tesla did that 100 years ago. It was stopped and halted. I think it will be repeated. So I'm pretty sure that a day will come. Power will be wireless again because we have everything now wireless. We have the radio. Radio is wireless. Internet is wireless. Phone calls is wireless.
Yeah.
Television is everything is wireless except the power. Something the power. So it will happen again that the power will move wirelessly, and in this case we will do what you have just said. We put a single tower where it um, distribute power to other houses or locations around it. It is
What
coming.
what what do you think? Like, talking about Tesla, why would Tesla seem to care about the pyramids? Like, how did he somehow have this motivation to go down that path and then try to replicate it with his Wardenclyffe Tower? What would motivate somebody to do that 100
I
years
will tell
ago?
you something. I don't think that Tesla was replicating the pyramid.
Right.
I know that there is some sources, but I track these sources. It is just one website or one magazine that spread this information, but I don't know that there is a strong source that is linking that Tesla thought was trying to replicate the pyramid. It it comes from comparison between Tesla Tower and the pyramid. Um, so we have a tower, we have a big structure, and we have here a big structure. We have water for cooling. We have here water for cooling. We have certain operations done here, and the outcome is spreading discharge all of the place, lighting lamps and so on. And here is the same. So there is similarities, there is strong similarities, but I don't think this was invented by Tesla. This similarity, he was just moving to this direction to try to make electrical wireless electricity and it ends to be he is repeating what was in the past.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely knew about frequency, resonance,
Correct.
and
It
seismic movement, because that's he
yeah,
describes it, doesn't he? He says if you can capture the energy underground and just focus that through a tower, and then you can shoot it somewhere else.
yeah. It is
Interestingly,
the same.
in the movie Young Frankenstein with Gene Wilder, they used the Tesla coils to bring the monster alive. Not a lot of people know
Yeah,
that, but that's where you
yeah.
get the famous scene. The electric comes from the ionosphere,
Correct.
from the sky, and it's like he's alive. That's the Tesla coils.
Correct.
Um,
It is the same as when James Watt and early scientists invented invented and improved the steam engines. It was actually before it was invented in the Roman time or the Greek time before, but they have reinvented again. So it is the same point.
Very interesting. Now, Tesla did mention a little bit about alien contact, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but do you think that these devices, Tesla or the Tesla towers or the pyramid, could have also been some kind of communication device to another planet? Could they have gone that
Uh,
far?
no, I don't think so. I don't think
Right.
so. I know where the idea comes from. It comes from when Boval put his theory, and they start to. There was a movie named Stargate.
Yeah.
Or take this, which by the way, the word Stargate is written on the temples. Stargate like this, Stargate.
Wow.
So they start to you know make a movie of that, and where the idea also spread out more. But I don't think this has happened. I know some people believe in that, but my personal belief is no.
Because one of the original connections with the Sphinx was, the Graham Hancock, Robert Bauval, about the Sphinx looking at Leo, and it replicates the lion in the sky. To me, that kind of would be like something that you would do if you was living in that era, or you was possibly from that star system. But
Yeah,
it's safe to say the Sphinx, definitely the head, originally was a lion, and for me, that might represent a baby lion, which is Babylon. I don't know if there's a connection, but I just had that in my head that there could
nice.
be a connection between
Mhm.
Babylon, baby lion, and now you've got London, which is Babylon, Babylon,
Mhm.
London. That's the new power. So you could be talking about original species there that has never really collapsed. It's just reinvented itself. The Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, the modern empire now, it's all the same power, just in a different disguise. But I think
Yeah,
that that's why they defaced the Sphinx, to get that, like, the baby lion, make it
yeah.
disappear. I don't know. Anyway, Dunn has a fascinating theory about the Serapeum and its true function, which he discussed in detail on the Danny Jones podcast, which he went into some really wild theories there, which was cool. But can you give us a brief summary of what is your point of view about the Serapeum function? And just quickly for the listeners, the Serapeum is an underground collection of these giant sarcophagus, which weigh tons, and they're so precise, basically. So what's your opinion on that?
The theory that the idea of the Serapeum, the what was discussed by Don was, I think, comes from Eric Wilson,
Yeah.
who was an engineer and researcher. That's why Don asked the audiences, please refer to the book, because I know that he don't want to explain it, and then maybe he didn't explain it exactly as Eric wrote it or something. Um, but my point of view about the Serapeum, that when I visited several times, that since it has very thick walls, about 45 to 50 centimeters, and it is one piece, very heavy, inserted to the ground. So I say what I propose that even in my episode, that there is some kind of pressure inside, that it was the box must contains, must include, and that's why the tip was or I'm sorry, that's why the lid was like 20 to 30 tons, very heavy lids, that is there to like encapsulate something inside, and that's why it is like 20 centimeter in deep ground, in the ground itself, to avoid vibrations or to hold the vibrations. Um,
Interesting.
I wrote, of course, the Eric Olson idea and in Dan's book. I'm still making my mind on it. But what I have proposed that it was not for Apis, not for Apis pole. No Apis pole mummy was found in
No,
the
no
gallery.
bulls. No
No
bullshit.
balls at all. And even it was written by Maret. I have to I had to translate the book from French to English, cost me a portion, but
Wow.
just to search for this statement, and he confirmed that he didn't find anything other than steelers and boxes. Very clear. Um, so still long to do in the Serapeum. However, I can confirm from my point of view that it is not for Apis. It was maybe reused for Apis, but originally not for Apis.
Yeah. So it's still a bit of a mystery. Now, this talking like how do they first of all carve, carry, sculpture, finish, polish all these giant pieces of stone, especially granite, which we can't pretty much do now. It's so expensive to do it. Now, there's new talk that do you think that all the bricks for the pyramids and the Serapeum were quarried, or could they have used some kind of polymer for fabricating the stones on site using synthetic and organic materials? And you can just explain to the listeners what polymer means.
Yeah, so a polymer or the geopolymer is simply where you can make artificial stones. So it is
Yeah.
not quarrying, no, but you take the components of it, squeeze it, put a certain amount of components and water, and it was introduced first by Joseph Davidovich,
Yeah.
a French chemical scientist of it. I would say that this theory didn't take um, it was heavily attacked in wrong way. I think it was this method partially used, and it's important to highlight it's partially used. I would say 3, 4, 5% in the pyramid as we are doing today. Most of the items were quarried. Most of the stones were quarried. Over 95% was quarried, but the remaining was can make like 4, 5%. And this is what is written in the analysis reports coming from the analysis of the stones. Yes, it is partially used, but no more than 4, 5%. So other than this, it was quarried, cut, and transported to the location. How is it done? Very long story, of course.
So just again for listeners, this polymer, it's almost like a mix, like a cement mix, and you take in
Yeah.
the limestone, crushed limestone, mixing it with synthetics, and then what that would do is it make it a lot easier to carry them to the site, and then you would fill a mold with this mix, and that would harden into a stone, which makes much more sense than trying to carry these massive stones 500 miles away or whatever. Was it 500 kilometers from the quarry? It's still mind-boggling, man. Now, one very interesting book I came across through Chris Dunn, I've got to mention this, is Engines of Creation by K. Eric Drexler, which mentions the idea of nanotechnology playing a part in building such magnificent and precise structures. It's almost like you have tiny little machines or nanobots that would build a structure up. And it's funny because every time I look at the pyramids now, I always think of something that could have 3D printed it from the ground up because it's so precise. But then that would answer the question as to where the machines are. If you had machines that were so small, you definitely wouldn't be able to see them. Do you think this is a reality, a possibility of nanotech in the ancient times?
If we're talking about nanotechnology, I mean, if we're talking from perspective on dealing with the material on the level of molecule and small particles and so on, I can say yes, but not. So they were able to deal with the stones on a very on the level of the molecules or particles, and even this is sometimes, by the way, mentioned by Egyptologists in Dr. Mohammed Zakaria Ghanem said that many Egyptologists, his 1950s, believe that the vases was built in or made in using a heat to kind of make it softer, and then be able to make it that precise with low tolerance. So I think if I was talking about nanotechnology from that level of molecules, yeah, why not? Could be.
And interestingly, like the original name of Egypt, the black land, the fertile land was Kemet, and that's where we get alchemy and chemistry. So they could be. I mean, these guys were not only master stonemasons; they were unbelievable at manipulating and understanding how rocks, function. We treat rocks like just a dead item, but to them it was completely alive. I think that's what we're missing out on in this modern day. We don't think about things outside the bubble enough. Now, would it be safe to say that these original master builders would have studied multiple degrees to attain the wisdom that they seem to have with rather than these things being built by slaves?
Excuse me, Adam. I was unable to hear you. I can understand the question, but my voice is clear to you?
Yeah, it's clear. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we can say so. They were masters in stone, masters in physics, masters in chemistry, masters in civil and construction engineering. They didn't necessarily have certificate, but they know very well their work.
No, they were like polymaths, just like multiple, multiply expert at everything.
Yeah, they're experts in everything. Yeah, slaves. I know that it comes from other researchers. I kind of not supporting this.
Yeah.
It was done by the workers, and as Dr. Ahmed Fakri says, that every civilization was having slaves. Every civilization having slaves, but this doesn't necessarily that they have made everything, so they can help in some stuff. But the core function or the core structure was built by experts.
Yeah, I just think when you look at the precision and stuff, if you just got your average worker on the street who doesn't care about exact precision, you're gonna cause a big problem. One tenth of an inch off, the whole pyramid is screwed, right?
Correct.
Very, very interesting. Now,
Then I would like to stop, and I think there is something in the voice. Maybe you can take 5 minutes break, and we
on
come.
my side, yeah, okay, just take a break.
I will close the call and then join John again. Or
no, don't do that. Don't do that. Just pause. Just pause at a second. Hang on. No. Take a quick break if you want. I'm going to take a quick break. Let's just pause. Okay, we're back. How's that sounding now?
Much better.
I needed
think there was some interruption, but now it's perfect.
It's funny because it happened on my last podcast. I don't know, maybe I'm in Vietnam, so I guess it's the internet. And by the way, we've not had any rain for months, right? It's been the longest drought in Vietnam ever. And during this podcast, I just heard a massive explosion, and I thought my neighborhood was on fire. It's just the thunder. We had the first drops of rain yesterday, so I've been praying. Cool. I've been praying for rain, and no better person than you to bring it. Cool. Now, where were we at? So we're at the Serapeum. Now, there was obviously a golden era, and then the likes of Ramesses II seemed to deface so much of Egypt's history. Is it possible that this kind of technology was intended for good purposes at the initial beginning, but then could have later been switched to darker purposes? Like, can you use this energy to do something bad to the world?
Yeah, everything is like so. So nuclear energy is just one example. When Einstein invented the equation of energy, E equal mc squared, he said that it could be used for goodness or destroying the world.
which is
So
in Oppenheimer, the new film, because Einstein's like,
exactly.
I didn't want to give you the equation. And this is
Yeah.
exactly what I think could have happened. There could have been some kind of atomic, maybe man's, the Icarus story, flying too close to the sun, too much power being used, or I don't know, the original engineers of the pyramid possibly got replaced by a less experienced people who didn't put the chemicals in correctly and messed it all up. And my concern with that is that we seem to be hell bent on wanting to destroy this planet at a rapid pace for profit rather than survival. There doesn't seem to be much, rush to heal this planet, and we seem to be spiraling into pollution and sickness. It doesn't seem very human to me at all. Would you personally be surprised if we ever discovered that there was another species, that non-human or AI, that seems to control current affairs? I know that's a bit out there, but it's something that I think we should mention.
I think humans are evil enough to control themselves.
Well, they say that in the five epochs, like the Mayans, they say like first we destroy each other by fire, then it was water, wind, and
Yeah.
all these four elements, and the last thing in the fifth epoch is man destroys himself, which I think, looking at history, looking at the ancient sites, we've been around doing this before. It's been a cycle that's happened many, many thousands of years over and over. We get to a peak, and then the survivors of that, they would have the knowledge. And if it was a small group of people, they'd have an advantage on the people that were just being born into that kind of system. I think that's a very, very clear way to manipulate any civilization. So just that brings me into like when I personally had a look at statues of Akhenaten, you've got, cone-headed humans or cone-headed species, which do look non-human to me. Do you think this could be a sign of higher intelligence? Because there's cone heads all over the world now. Brian Foster looks into that.
Yeah, it could be because Akhenaten specifically he wanted to say something, or he wanted to highlight something. His body, if you look to his body, half man, half woman, half male, half female.
Yeah.
From top and from bottom. I think he was seeking for the perfectness, so, or the perfection. He was saying that I am not belonging to only man, not only to woman. No, I'm the perfect person. So it could also be that's this elongated the skull, that he was saying the same. I'm the perfect.
Because they've done experiments on that have proven that these are not just stretched, like they do in some tribes where they stretch the head out. No, because they've proven that I don't know the technicalities, but the actual brain is not, it's naturally formed in that way, so it hasn't been manipulated. But interestingly, Akhenaten's name, it's got Aten in there. My name's Adam, and I've always thought that I've come from the first man, the Atom. Or the Atom. Yeah. He was was he the father of Tutankhamun, right? Apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
And I read, or I can't remember where I got my source from, but was Tutankhamun some kind of mutant child? Like he had a bad back, he had a club foot, a cleft lip, and he wore a mask. So to me, I've got a theory that if you look at the story of Ishtar, the Babylonian, she apparently came down from space on an egg-shaped craft, which, funnily enough, they have a pine cone outside the Vatican, which apparently resembles this spaceship, the Easter egg, the Ishtar egg. Now, if a species like, let's say, Akhenaten was the first man to fall to Earth, the reason why he's symbolized as a man and a woman is because he didn't have any female to mate with. So what possibly Tutankhamun could be was a genetic modification to try to create a slave race using genetics. And that's where you get the story of Genesis, right? Which I find is very, very interesting. Now, we're not far off the end, but in the 1980 movie, which is really good about Nikola Tesla, there's the new movie of Nikola Tesla, which typically, if anybody searches Tesla film, they're going to get the new version, which is crap. But in the old version, 1980, there are pictures on JP Morgan's desk played by Orson Welles, which clearly shows patents for vehicles that are being powered wirelessly from a source of light, from a tower. And there is also what I found on the internet. If you Google Keyless Motors, they're an old car company which created tanks and stuff for the military. If you Google Keyless Motors, you'll find old vintage posters which clearly show cars, like an advertisement, being illuminated with a beam of light from a tower in the background. So do you think that there's any way that this could be the secret wireless technology or energy grid that is already in use now in major cities, which is why we've suddenly got electric cars? And funnily enough, the biggest electric car company in the world is called Tesla, but the two people don't put that together. And just thinking about this wireless energy, like magnetic almost, to me, that would explain how these electric cars can go so fast. They accelerate because they're being pulled by some kind of magnetic line. What do you think about that?
I think as of today, it's still not. I mean, at least for the public, maybe in test locations or so. But as of now, I'm driving an electric car. I see electric cars everywhere. I know that it needs to be charged. This is looking for the future. Yes, this will happen. I think this is not maybe happen. No, this will happen. So then this will happen. Moving to wireless grids or wireless energy grids. Currently, it is just tests in small portions, universities, some institutions, maybe some companies. It is not public, but it will come. It will be public soon.
Well, I mean, technology, look at, you're not going to release the iPhone 20 straight away, but you do have the ability to do that already. They just stagger it out. And now that it seems like the big competition is who can have the longest, most powerful battery.
Yeah.
But I think what Tesla's showing in that movie there is that he already had these patterns where I've got a friend who works, he's worked with airplanes all his life. He swears on his life that these planes don't need to be fueled. Like they have some other form of power. When you plug your electric car in, you're relying off like a counter that's telling you your battery's charged up. But you don't think that there's a possibility that the batteries may always be charged? We're just going off that counter.
I think I got your point. I think we can be more efficient. Companies can be more efficient with their batteries, but let's consume more energy. They don't have any problem with that. And then you have to charge it every while, and you have to pay every while. They can be more efficient, but I feel that they don't care also.
It's because what I found very interesting about Chris Dunn's interview with Joe Rogan is at the very end, he gave his book to Joe and says, give him to Elon Musk. And he says, why? He says, because if he's going to run electric cars, he needs to get electricity. And I was like, well, that's got to be the connection I'm trying to make there. Like, this is so funny.
It's coming. Yeah.
We've got a few more questions. Appreciate you hanging in there. You've been amazing. Thank you so much. Why does there seem to be so much resistance, unfair tactics, and methods of obvious smear campaigns being used to silence or debunk such claims, rather than invest time and additional resources and funding to the cause? And this resistance especially seems to come from archaeologists or scholars. What are they so afraid of? Because to me, there really seems to be so many anomalies to simply ignore this fact now. What is this resistance all about?
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it is you are doing a lot of work and a lot of effort, and sometimes someone comes, hey, this is bullshit, or this is and they start to, what we call it, hit you under the belt, like unfair tactics to do it, just to get you down. It is not like focusing on the topic, it's focusing on the person. This person is blah 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 liar, he is this person unfair, and so on. I think this is life every time, everywhere. This is something we'll be unable to change. The only way to avoid this is to focus on the topic, try to improve it, try to cover your gaps, and this is the only way how we can convince other people. If we are looking to fights here and there, we will not reach our target at all.
Just one question, like, for example, the scam project, who's funding that and how much would that cost to run? And what are they trying to look for? Are they still looking for treasure? the buried body of Khufu, which has never been found. But what are they looking for? Are they looking for ways to understand this technology, or are they still trying to find treasure?
Yeah, so there are several objectives, but treasure, I would say, for the universities, not the main target, because we know that there is no treasures. Everyone knows there is no treasure in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
They're looking for maybe secrets, knowledge. It is funded by several organizations in Japan, Germany, and France. Companies are there, universities are there. Everyone trying to build his own profile. This is also important. Everyone trying to build his own profile. That I work in the big Great Pyramid. I use these tools. I use this method. Publishing papers. This all give powerful knowledge to the community and to the people themselves. But finding something, um, this could be likely like low probability, low probability. But that's why they are focusing more on the science and how to use it, not actually the finding itself.
Right. Okay. Amazing. Please share with the listeners. What are these projects that you've been doing at schools to help educate children's knowledge of ancient Egypt? You're very much into your experiments and using models.
Mm. So I have been contacted by a school or a college, by head of the science department. Hi Ahmed, we watched your videos. We need to apply a kind of a STEM fair for the students. So we have like 50 projects. We have 300 students, and try to build by their own, to have their own experience and knowledge, to build experiments and projects related to ancient Egypt. So trying to answer hard questions. How the stones were cut, how the stones were raised, what is the function of the pyramids, how Tesla is connected, what is the common between Tesla Tower and the pyramid, even in other areas like science, like chemicals, like obelisks. So 50 projects cover many aspects of ancient Egypt, and this fair took place in Egyptian Grand Museum, the new museum in Giza. And it was amazing. Actually, there were many people there, parents, and many people from Ministry of Education and of Tourism, to see, okay, what are those people are doing. And the goal is to energize young people to discover their own history, and not just a theoretical discovery. No, do it yourself.
Yes.
Discover it by yourself and do experiments and so on.
That's something that my son doesn't pay too much attention to all this, but every now and again, like when your video was there, I was like, come here, you look at this. And he was just like, oh, right. Because it's easier for them to understand. Like you say, you got to do hands-on. I think that's really phenomenal, that, man. And praise to you. That's game changing for the world. Why did you stop doing your YouTube videos? Are you going to continue?
So the goal is actually, this was planned from the beginning, from day on, to have 14 videos, one series.
Uh-huh.
So it is 14 videos to cover it. Feeling that continue the videos, it will be like doing a repetition. So repeating myself. I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to again to, okay, because I will speak again about Sphinx, I will speak again about pyramids. It may be boring for
Right.
the audiences. So what I'm thinking of is, okay, we can explore other areas. For example, if I want to repeat it, then we can make it in English, or I can make one complete episode differently. But we are currently looking for other opportunities without really repeating myself in the same topics.
I think you should definitely do that. Continue with them videos because, they're fascinating. Now, is there any tour guides or specific tours that you would like to recommend to any listeners who are keen to visit Egypt?
Yeah, I indeed recommend Yusuf Aoyan and Muhammad Ibrahim.
Yep.
For their tours. So maybe if someone if you want to search for Uncharted X.
Yep.
and on Google, and you will find the tours. Also search for Saba Tours, Saba Tour. You will find both those tour guides are really amazing. I learned a lot from them.
Patricia as
They,
well. I haven't met her yet, but I kind of friends with Youssef through Hakeem. I sent him a message, like told him a story when I went to his dad's house, and I'm hoping he will come
yeah.
on the show because the funny thing with Hakeem, I went to his house and it was when my mum was sick, and this is where I suspend all this talk. For me, Hakeem was a very, very special person. He knew that my mum was sick and I never even told him. And he told me in his house that he was going to send my mum energy from the Sphinx to England and she will know. And he told me that the Sphinx was an energy device. I got home from Egypt on the Friday. My mum had sarcophagus cancer. So she was actually in and out of hospital before I went to Egypt. And at the time when I was going, she was getting sick and then we had the war problem. Everything was against me to go. My mum said, go, don't worry about it. I'll be fine. So I came back on the Friday and my sister told me that my mum was very, very sick. And I went to the hospital straight after I got back from Egypt. And she just about remembered who I was. She was very, very morphined and she was dying. And I had the chance to sit with her Friday night. I went home, got all my stuff on the Saturday. I put my Egyptian cartouche around her neck on Friday night. And the nurse called me on Saturday morning telling me something was around her neck burning her. And I said, no, that's just this chain from Egypt, which is burning. She said it was burning. And she was morphined, right? Anyway, on the Monday, I had all the family in the hospital and my mum sat up in the bed and looked me in the eyes. And all I could think about was Hakeem saying, she will know. And I tried to call the nurse and I said, Mum just sat up. And the nurse told me there is no physical way your mum could sit up because she's had so much morphine. She did. And I have witnesses. And then on the Tuesday, she died. So for me, why I got involved in this, why I believe in the magic is because whatever Hakeem did, he gave me just enough time to get home and see me mum through that duet. That's why if Youssef's listening, please, I would love to get you on because, you know, we got into a bit of a debate with one person on the internet and he's saying that Hakeem's been debunked and the school of chemists, all that. You've got to have some kind of magical mind and suspend this academia and believe in magic to be able to go down this road, in my opinion, with the right spirit, which I think whoever's built the pyramids deserve that attention. They don't deserve this. They're just a tomb. Nah, there's got to be more than that. Aside from Chris Dunn's 3 books, which are obviously amazing, what other books or resources would you recommend for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about this topic?
So I advise also everyone to read archaeologist's book.
Yep.
Like Mark Leonard, like Zaha Hawass, Dr. Zahi,
Yep.
like and other officials. Why? Because they really publish important information. So they give him. I disagree with them in their conclusions, but I agree with their information. Information is important, and also the ancient texts help with that. I would recommend maybe for everyone to read. Give me a sec.
Oh, you got cats as well.
Hmm?
Oh, is that a cat tower or an experiment? I just
I have a.
You have cat.
You saw it.
I
Yeah,
saw it.
I have a
Yes.
cat. Yeah,
So you know all about the purr.
yeah, of course. That's why I love when we said. I really advise everyone to read that book, Origins of the Sphinx.
Oh yeah,
It
cracker.
is really a very important book.
Yeah.
And also books from. He is really good. I really Zakaria Sitchin. I know he have a lot of fire.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I haven't read that one, but I've read his previous ones. I didn't know he'd done that. Ah, cool.
yeah. He have several books, but he really, if you disagree with his source, no problem. But just read it. Read it. It opens your mind on several other areas. So this is I can recommend for the readers now. So Journey to the Mystical Past and also Origins of the Sphinx.
Amazing. Okay. First of all, a huge congratulations on your foreword for Chris Dunn's groundbreaking new book. For your name being dropped on Joe Rogan. Did you even know that was going to happen?
No.
I love that Chris always says that you're a very humble person. I know that for sure now, and I'm very honored. I hope I could be a friend of yours in the future. I think that you've done some spectacular research. You've had the courage to stand up and, really bring back to light some mysterious past about your wonderful country. What's next for you now? What would you like to see happen in the future?
Currently, for me, I'm writing a book because yeah, putting book will last for long. So videos someday will removed or
I-
deleted.
I'll do the forward, no problem.
Okay, great. I'm writing it. So this is my current objective in not my first book in Arabic. Um, and who knows, maybe later in English, but currently in Arabic, and also looking for the next step for the videos. So we are contacting several organizations who can support and make it more professional for video series.
Yeah, it's got to go on.
Still,
It's got to go on Netflix or Gaia or something like that. They've got loads of resources. Just needs to
yeah,
be. Don't lose the main structure of it. Just make it a little bit more professional. Yeah, for sure.
correct. This
It's
is the
it's
point.
it, it's a little bit difficult. I understood the pyramid one, but some of the other stuff, the translation wasn't coming through. But having previously read all the books, I knew what your main points were and what you were trying to achieve. That's amazing. Now we finished, and I think one of the best guests I've ever had. Thank you so much for your time. One thing I do know about energy is that I found you, you found me, and we're using all this wireless stuff to connect and hopefully spread a lovely message to all the listeners. I think it's fascinating, and I hope this topic never ends. And I wish you all the best in the world. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope we can do this again sometime in the future and talk about the next level. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you to all the listeners, and thank you to all the people that we mentioned in this podcast. And just to end this, if there's anybody who's listening to this who's got a critical difference of opinion, I welcome you to come on my show, express those different perspectives, because I think it's super important that we listen to everything from every angle in a humble and professional manner. So you're more than welcome. Reach out to me, and we'll talk. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody, and thank you for listening.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Brilliant. Well done. Cheers, buddy.